Welcome to another video. For today, we are going to be talking about staircases. And staircases are not scary in and of themselves. If you're in a creepy house at night, yes, staircases can seem very foreboding, but staircases always have a purpose to get you from one floor to the next. But what about the staircases that appear to go nowhere? Unfinished stairs leading from the door of a building, stairs leading up to a wall, even bleachers, I suppose, could count. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we will be discussing staircases that have been found out in the middle of the woods, far away from humanity, just standing alone with nowhere to go once you reach the top, where people report feeling or seeing strange happenings either while they're on these staircases or just near them. So a number of years ago, I came across a subreddit called NoSleep for the first time, and one of the first stories that I had clicked on was called "I'm a search and rescue officer for the US Forest Service. I have some stories to tell," by a user named searchandrescuewoods. And it was this whole multi-part series where the writer talks about that while working as a search and rescue officer, whenever they found themselves deep in the forest, they would come across these staircases that were just leading to nowhere, and some of them were old, they were abandoned looking, but others were brand new. Some went straight up and some even spiraled. The writer was told by their colleagues to never go near these staircases. And so the writer shares their creepy experiences with these staircases, and I spent hours reading this series. I was so engrossed. I highly recommend that you check them out. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And I completely thought that this whole series was real. I thought that this was somebody's actual paranormal experiences until I learned that No Sleep is fictional stories. So I was like, oh. But other people have spoken up about their experiences seeing abandoned staircases in the middle of the woods, some even including pictures. So I began to wonder if this was really real, and if so, why were the staircases there, and why were people reporting such strange phenomena happening near these staircases? Many people have reported seeing these staircases in national parks and large forested areas in many parts of the world, going as far as various countries in Europe, North America, and South America. Like I mentioned earlier, these staircases would be found very deep within the woods, tens of kilometers into it, in very isolated areas, perhaps where no one would often be disturbing these anomalies. And some have even spotted these staircases right next to a graveyard. So throughout this Reddit story from Search and Rescue Woods, comments could be found discussing what they had experienced with these staircases. And one user called TK622 showed a photo that they had taken in Germany, where the staircase was covered in moss, had one railing. And the thing about these staircases is that they're just so out of place. And I think that's what freaks everyone out the most about these, especially considering that in the vast majority of experiences, there's never really any mention of there being any prior foundation or remnants of buildings. Like, it's literally just the staircase that's there. So I'd like to take a moment to just read some of these comments that people have left about their experiences seeing staircases in the middle of the woods. I obviously cannot vouch for if this is real or not, because basically everything on No Sleep you have to take with a grain of salt. So nonetheless, I found them interesting, so I'm going to include some of them now. I live in Wisconsin. I've only seen one staircase like this, and when we went to it, everything just felt off. Like, we didn't feel scared, but we felt unwelcome. Like we shouldn't be on the stairs. It was very weird for the middle of the day, nice and sunny, and then feeling dread. Like if we didn't leave by our own accord, something would make us. And as we were leaving, the entire trip back, we felt watched, like the whole forest had eyes on us. It was not fun. How about that? I didn't realize that the stairs were common. Came upon a set in rural West Virginia. I didn't think I was quite 40 miles deep, but at least 10 or better. I thought maybe a house had once stood there, but there was no cellar or other debris that would indicate a home was there before. Just a set of stairs with a base that went up maybe one flight. 16 steps or so if I remember right. And sturdy. Could barely shake them. I didn't climb up though. Worried it might break or fall over, and I was alone. Oh man, the staircases. Across the street from the farm we used to live at in Oregon, there was a huge abandoned plot of forest. It was probably 50 acres or so. It belonged to a widow who lived elsewhere, according to the older families in the area. She and her husband had planned to build a house on it after raising the forest, but he died before the plans took root. We used to ride our horses through the woods on dry days, and we always passed by the staircase that was leaned up on a tree a few miles in. There was never a house built there, according to the neighbors. The forest was too dense and old anyway. It always gave me the creeps, and we jokingly called it the stairway to heaven to alleviate the tension when we rode by it. The horses weren't fans either. They got particularly spooky and snorty when we went to pass it. I'd always wondered what on earth it was doing there. So I have a possible bit of info and a personal account regarding the stairs for you, OP. We're not supposed to talk about it either, but I really believe in being kind and at least passing along info about dangerous shit. The first time I came across them, I was a kid out with older relatives. I spotted them maybe 60 yards away from where we were gathering bear grass and wandered over. I got to within 20 feet of them, and they were made of wood, clean and polished, no dust, no leaves, nada. When I got close, everything went quiet and the light became dimmer. This is funny because it was a bright day up until that point. I looked back and my family, although only 60 or so yards away, looked like they were much further away than that. A feeling of sheer terror hit me and I ran like hell back to my family. I sprinted to my uncle crying and breathless and told him about the stairs, but when I gestured back, they were gone. My uncle's face went very stern and he told me not to ever do that again. He said they used to appear as the frames of wickie-up doors or stone steps up large boulders. Now they show up as stairs, and they are never to be approached. He said they lead to the spirit world, and that the people who touch them can be stolen away. I've seen them several times since then, not the same set, but just like you described. They can be big, small, new, dilapidated, etc. Each time I lay down medicine, say a prayer of protection, and get away from where they appear. I live in Michigan too. Go to the UP, obviously there are a lot of woods to get lost in, but an hour east of Ironwood, there is a clearing in the woods that has stairs. I was younger, maybe 10 or 12, and was hiking and exploring with my cousins, and we stumbled on a clearing about half a football field long. Had a few staircases, but not against trees, just standing in the open. They looked like stairs from a normal suburban home. Kind of old though. The older cousin decided to investigate. He walked to the stairs to see how they were being held up, couldn't find anything, which weirded him out and made us all leave. Grass didn't grow near the stairs either. Back to the original story, the writer goes on to talk about how a colleague enlightened him about the fact that not all of these staircases went straight up. This colleague said that some of the staircases were flipped upside down. Well, there's the normal stairs, the ones that pop up when we're out a ways. I know you know about them, but sometimes I've run across ones that are flipped upside down. I guess it would be like if you had a dollhouse and the stairs were a separate piece. Now take that, flip it upside down so the top step is stuck in the dirt, and put it out in the woods. They're like that. I don't see them as often, but they're odd, to say the least. Makes me think of footage taken after a tornado, when houses are all blown apart and random things are left standing, like chimneys and garden walls. These ones freak me out more than the normal ones because I really can't write those off as easily. According to Historic Mysteries, there are actually a lot of historic sites that have staircases leading to nowhere. In Viterbo, Italy, stands the Etruscan Pyramid of Bamarzo, which is a set of stone stairs that lead to a small platform on top that is believed to date back to the 7th century BCE. No one really knows what happened at this location, but it's speculated that anything from astrology to sacrifices could have taken place. In Cambodia, there is a 2,000-foot long, very deteriorated looking staircase called Pluker that goes up the Phnom Kulen mountain, which dates back somewhere between the 9th and 13th century. No one knows why the structure was built either, but some believe that it may be leading to a buried city. Then perhaps the most jarring is that of Madame Sherry's Stairs in Chesterfield, New Hampshire. The story goes that a Parisian singer named Madame Antoinette Sherry built a small castle of sorts in the woods as a summer retreat in the 1920s. She would hold parties there. This woman seemed to love all things luxurious, but eventually she lost all of her money, had to leave her castle, and in 1962 it burnt down, with only the stairs themselves remaining. So these don't necessarily have any paranormal aspects related to them, but they are interesting pieces of history nonetheless. There are a plethora of theories surrounding why the staircases are even there, and the most common logical explanation is that these staircases are simply remnants of buildings or houses that were constructed years and years ago back in the 1800s that have since deteriorated, and now it's just the staircases left as they were more structurally sound. But what about the ones people say look to be brand new? And then there are comments that theorize the staircases being there are for more of a paranormal and supernatural reason. And that is that the staircases are actually portals to another world, or a type of portal that spirits use to cross over into our reality. Others believe that these staircases were used for occult ceremonies, or that they were purposefully placed in various locations around the world by aliens or some other kind of beings that aren't human for some sort of similar purpose, like abducting unsuspecting people who get too close, and that's why so many people go missing while in the woods, which was written about by an author named David Paulides, who was a former police officer that wrote a series of books called Missing 411, where he details cases of people who disappeared in national parks under strange circumstances. For me, I think that the staircases were built for the reason that I first mentioned, that they were built a very long time ago, that the buildings they were attached to were worn away over time, and that the staircases are all that are left. As for the ones being brand new, I mean, it certainly could be possible. There are strange things that happen on this planet every day, things that we do not understand, so who am I to say that some alien or paranormal phenomena is not taking place? But I think the claim that there are new looking staircases out in the middle of the woods for no reason and with no photographic evidence, I think that's just bordering more on the creepypasta territory, or that they're just completely photoshopped, which I'm sure plenty of them are. I definitely believe that staircases in the woods exist because I've seen some myself, which I'm pretty sure were built for the purpose of having an easier access to get up like a ravine or whatever. But they are pretty creepy to come across, the more ornate and bigger ones for sure. But that is it for today's video. Please let me know if you have ever seen any creepy looking staircases in the middle of the woods. I would love to hear your stories about that. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.